Last week on this programme, we heard a heart-rending account from the survivor or a survivor of the attack on the Bataclan Theatre in Paris in 2015. Back then, a journalist and theology scholar called Mufassil Islam took to YouTube to denounce the Paris attackers in the strongest possible terms. But that video denunciation prompted supporters of the Islamic State group to threaten him and his family with death. Mufassil is currently living in Belfast, and on Friday he reached a confidential resolution of a legal action against Facebook regarding a number of threats published on its platform. However, Mr. Islam, who is represented by KRW Law, is pursuing other social media giants over the campaign of abuse directed against him. He's been telling me why he decided to make a stand against violent Islamist extremism.
Because I was receiving threats and abuses from the farthest corners of the world and from some
Hang on. Sorry, I'll just stop you because you're saying you were receiving threats already, but was that not sparked by you denouncing the attackers of the Bataclan or not?
That's correct. That's what
I'll tell you what, so I'll get you to just state why you decided to go out and say you're opposed, and then I'll ask you about the abuse you got afterwards, yeah? Okay?
Okay, that's
just
good.
To get that. All right. So the Bataclan attacks happened along with, there'd been a series of other terrible Islamist attacks, and you took to social media at that point. Why?
Because obviously the terrorists were using the name of my religion to carry out attacks which did not go with the ethics of Islamic values. So I had to do something about it. And the only thing I could do as someone who was on social media is to protest about it. And I did.
You protested in the strongest possible terms. We won't go into all the details of what you said, but you made it absolutely clear they weren't acting on your behalf. What kind of reaction did you get?
Well, I was getting threats and abuses from all over the world who were telling me to shut my mouth. And obviously I was getting abuses. They were making Facebook pages against me. They were calling me a murtad or an apostate, when in fact I was not a murtad. I was not an apostate. So that was quite an insult. And I found people from everywhere attacking me in every possible way and sending me threats, death threats, abuses. They were making caricatures about me and my family members. They were giving out details about where I was living and all that so that I could be killed. But I could also understand the vast majority of my friends who loved me. They found themselves to be helpless, who in fact didn't support this kind of attitudes, but they were afraid of their own safety and security. So I couldn't find them to be standing up for me.
So you took to the courts to try to ensure that some of those criticisms that have been posted online, including death threats, were taken down. We can't go into all the details, but you've had a resolution of your case against Facebook, and you're now moving on to other social media giants.
That's right. Now, next I'm planning to move against YouTube, because I think they need to be accountable for the users, because the number of Facebook and YouTube users are tremendous. But at the same time, I think the moderation is not up to the standard that we should expect from any company. And the loophole, especially language loophole, is being used and abused by extremists to propagate their preachings. And especially when it comes to countries like Bangladesh, Facebook follows almost a zero moderation policy, which is not correct.
You are intending then, I presume, to continue to speak your mind. Do you see yourself as, if you like, as a scholar of Islamic theology, trying to make it clear to the wider world that you don't believe that Islamists are speaking for the mainstream of the religion?
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that, because even I was confused for a while whether they are representing true Islam, because they were just going literally by the book. But obviously you need interpretations, you need to assess the circumstances, and they were using, for example, vastly hadiths and other tafsirs that we call interpretations, which were obviously outdated, and they were not, in fact, coherent with the only divine revelation of Islam, Quran. So I had to do something about it. I have been writing books, I have been lecturing on YouTube, and obviously I was lecturing on Facebook as well, so that people could understand Islam from the other side, which are being ignored by many scholars. I wanted to view Islam from a different perspective, which in fact gives Islam the true meaning that it stands for.
This is a dangerous endeavour that you're engaged in, isn't it?
Well, it is. And what Bruno had to do for science, I'm trying to do it for religion and spirituality. And I think reason must prevail.
I'm going to put that question to you again because we just had a bit of breakup on the line. This is a dangerous endeavour that you're engaged in, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. But at the same time, it is quite rewarding when I see people understand my point, and people eventually will progress for greater peace. And I have to do it, as Bruno did for science and Galileo did for science, and I have to do it for reason and logic. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that people of the future generation will understand what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to do it for peace, for greater peace.
And obviously this is a dialogue that's going on around the world. Just out of curiosity, what brought you to Belfast?
Well, I was doing my PhD in Trinity, and I lived, over almost 3 decades in London, but I did my PhD. But then, obviously, I started getting death threats from serious Islamist extremists from various parts of the world. They were telling me that they knew I was doing my PhD at Trinity, and obviously, they knew my details, so I couldn't continue there anymore. So I had to drop off, and I lived in Belfast because obviously it's quite cheaper than living in Dublin as well.
Maybe a little bit safer than some other parts of the world you could be in, but we'll keep the fingers crossed for you.
Of course, that's true as well. That's true as well. And obviously, whenever living in a cosmopolitan, multicultural city, you have to look over your shoulder all the time, which I was tired of as well.
Well, that was the journalist and theology scholar Mufassil Islam. Coming up after the news, the ethics of intervention. Folic acid is soon going